Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Communities Live here at Sheffield Live 93.2 FM. And we have filmmaker Jeff Finn. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's turned a lot warmer here today, so the sun is shining. So couldn't have asked for a better day. How is it in America?
It's as I look out the window in Los Angeles, it is supposed to be, I think, 90 around 95 degrees today. So, you know.
I want to ask you, Jeff. I mean, so tell us a bit about how you became a documentary maker. I mean, what inspired you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I way back in the 1980s, when I was in college, I had I'd become fascinated even more so than I had been as a kid by film, and that was largely thanks to David Lynch. When I saw the movie in 1986, I saw the movie Blue Velvet, and that really changed my whole perception of what filmmaking even meant, what it could be. Um, and I was also fascinated with documentary films. I saw one right around that time. I can't remember the title, but it was about Marilyn Monroe and the Kennedys. And then I saw another doc about Jack Kerouac and the Beat movement. I know William Burroughs, Allen Ginsberg. Um, and that all kind of converged around the same time. And I really became fascinated by documentary film. And then a few years later, I saw The Thin Blue Line by Errol Morris, and that really cemented it for me.
Yeah.
Ironically, at the time, um, I didn't, I was just attending a community college and I had hopes of going to Columbia College in Chicago, where I grew up. But for whatever reason, that didn't happen. So I kind of came full circle many years later.
Yeah.
And here I am.
And I mean, if there was anybody that you could work with in the near future, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. Well, sadly, David Lynch passed a year ago, just over a year ago. I remember he passed
Congratulations.
away right when my documentary was coming out. So that was very, very sad. He would be at the top of my list, of course, my wish list. But yeah, I'm fascinated by so many topics, from Lynch's work with Twin Peaks to I have an interest in Paul McCartney, which I'm beginning to explore in more depth. I mean, it's been a lifelong interest as well. Um, so yeah, there's all kinds of stuff up the sleeve, as they say.
I
We'll see
mean,
how it
talk.
shakes out.
I mean, talk about lifelong interest. I mean, you you made a documentary last year about Jim Morrison. So it's called Before the End: Searching for Jim Morrison. I mean, and it's took you a very, very long time to film. I mean, tell us how long it actually took for you to make the film.
Oh, it was just a little 12-year span.
Oh,
Just
that
12
long.
years of my life.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, 12
When
years.
when I started it, I remember, trying to be realistic with myself and thinking, okay, this will take me uh, a few years, a couple of years. I remember thinking maybe 3, 4 years at tops, maybe 5 years. Um, but logistically, it was, I sort of did it backwards, the way you're traditionally supposed to. I didn't have the funding up front,
Yeah.
so the funding was put in place piecemeal over the years. So that was one factor. And then, of course, we can get into this a little later. I don't want to spoil anything, as they say, but a certain individual presented himself in my life, and that facilitated me having to backtrack, and quite honestly, just rebuild the entire documentary from scratch,
Sure.
to accommodate his storyline. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, in a little bit. So don't want to jump ahead, but
Yes.
that all sort of came together in terms of why it took a dozen years to create the docu series.
And I mean, we'll get into the documentary a little later on in the show. I mean, it's a great watch, by the way, and I want to
Oh,
say
thank you so much. I
it
appreciate
is
it.
a fantastic watch, and we'll get more into that later on. But I want to ask you as well. I mean, for anybody that wants to like film documentaries or a film entirely, what advice would you give to our listeners?
Oh, yeah, I've been asked that many times, and I always appreciate it. But again, um, ironically, I always tell people, if you were to follow my path, I'm not sure I'd recommend it, but I just dove in. In other instances, it's been referred to as punk rock filmmaking or DIY, do it yourself. At any rate, whatever you want to label it, it's truly independent filmmaking in the old school sense of independent filmmaking.
Yeah,
In Hollywood, in indie film, I don't even know if they use that label anymore. It seems like it's phasing out, but by Hollywood's standards, an independent film is, you know, has like a $10 million budget or something. I was doing it truly old school. Like I said, I did not go to film school back in the 80s and early 90s as much as I wanted to at that time. So I sort of came to it again full circle on my own terms, for better or worse. And I just dove in. I made a very tiny UFO documentary a few years before the end, searching for Jim Morrison. It's called Strange September's, the Hill abduction and the Exeter encounter. It's about two infamous UFO cases that allegedly took place in the state of New Hampshire in the U.S. in the 1960s, and that was just sort of an experimental exercise for me. It was really never meant to be released, and then ironically, again, someone did want to release it, a production company, which I appreciated. So yeah, my advice to anyone would be just dive in. That you're going to make mistakes, but that's how we as human beings learn and how we grow and evolve. Um, if it's really something you're passionate about, you're gonna have to do it at some point.
yeah. And I want to ask you as well, Jim. I mean, why Jim Morrison? I mean, there's so many singer songwriters or actors out there that you could have done a documentary on. Why Jim Morrison?
I think it was just, I think Jim. I've tried to put my finger on this so many times. It's a great question. I think he just really, his essence haunted me from the time I was a young kid, a little boy. I heard those songs, the Doors songs. They were in the ether. My older cousins had a radio playing all the time or vinyl records. Even 8-track cassettes back then when I was a little kid. So the Doors were always in the mix. In the air, literally in the airwaves. And the songs, I used to refer to them, as I say in the doc, as Halloween music.
Yeah,
I just found them really haunting, and they really stayed with me. And obviously there are others. The Beatles have very haunting songs, and Jimi Hendrix or whomever from that era. But as much as I love those artists too, there was something about Jim's voice and the lyrics that just stayed with me. And as time went on, and I, grew older, and I learned more of the story of him. I read the first biography of him, "No One Here Gets Out Alive," when I was 18 years old. I read it in one night, and that was it. That was, I was down the Morrison rabbit hole, as I say, and I'm still down there all these decades later.
and I mean, you condensed it into a three-part documentary. And like you say, it's took you over a dozen years to make it. I mean, was it always the plan to make it as a three-part documentary, or was there more that you wanted to show as well?
Oh yeah. At one point, I mean, honestly, and that's no exaggeration. At one point, I was starting to get into Ken Burns territory there. I was sort of half joking that it was going to be a 10-part docu-series, and then it was going to be an 8-parter and a 6-parter, and and it vacillated there for quite a long time. And then obviously I just, I thought it'd be best to tighten it as, as ideally as I could. And so a three-parter just sort of felt right. But there's so much footage. It's incredible. I mean, as you can imagine, over 12 years,
Yeah.
I shot all over the United States, three or four different times, traveling. I interviewed over 130 people on camera in those 12 years who knew Jim. And I connected with over 1,000 people in that dozen-year span who were connected to Jim in whatever way. And so at some point, I really do hope to, whether it's a director's cut or what have you, I really do hope to release all the existing footage because it's a fascinating tale. Just to hear those people who knew him, speak of him is really wonderful.
I mean, I've watched the documentary and it's a great watch. It's a really, really interesting watch as well because he was a
Well, thank
very,
you.
very complex character to a
Yes.
lot of people. And I mean, to say, I mean, I don't want to go too much into it for the people that haven't seen the film because I don't want to give spoilers. But I mean, do you feel there's some sort of, when you've done the documentary, do you feel there's some sort of closure now, or would you still keep exploring his lifestyle?
I mean, as I always sort of joke around and or half joke, if you will, excuse me, it's the rabbit hole I mentioned. I call it the Morrison rabbit hole.
Yeah,
It never ends.
yeah,
you know, for me anyway. You go down there and you think, okay, and just like a real life rabbit hole with rabbits, you get down to the bottom of those rabbit holes and it doesn't end there. They shoot off into other directions and other rabbit holes, warrens as they call them. And I've certainly found that to be the case, in my experience. Um, it's just like any fascinating topic, I think you just can. It's almost endless. You can just never really get to the bottom of it, so to speak.
yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing because the mysteries keep going and keep unfurling and unfolding themselves, and it's fascinating.
I mean, one of the mysteries, spoilers for people who haven't seen the documentary, is with the coffin being closed. And apparently, there's been, well, not apparently, there's been two people that's went to see the body, which was his friend and his girlfriend at the time. And to say that nobody actually saw the body and we think that the coffin is empty, I mean, that's just delved into conspiracy itself, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and there's a great meme that's been around for I don't know 20 years, give or take, that I've quoted many times. It says, I'm trying to remember verbatim. I believe it says, "Conspiracy theorist, a derogatory term for a critical thinker."
Yeah,
And I think that's a really important distinction. That's how I think of myself as a critical thinker. And there are those who want to lump me in as a conspiracy theorist, and I lean into that too. It's like, fine, I don't care what you call me. You can love my work, you can hate my work, you can agree with it or disagree. That's cool as long as you're not an asshole about it. Not a hater or a troll. Then I can respect that. But yeah, I mean, it's call it whatever you will. It's a classic grand mystery. I mean, how many in the world where everything seemingly has been done, as Shakespeare said, nothing new under the sun,
yeah.
so long ago. How many celebrities have faked their deaths and then perhaps, successfully so, and live to tell the tale or have fun with the tale? That
True.
certainly has not been accomplished. And so I think that alone sets Jim sort of in his own light. And again, it's just endlessly fascinating for me, anyway.
And also to say the funeral as well that was already attended by 10 people when none of his family or even the members of the doors attended. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting watch, really. I mean, it really brings a question, doesn't it?
Yes, and I always say, I riff on that old that old phrase, "There's no such thing as a perfect crime." Again, irony presenting itself. Ironically, he really didn't. As two private investigators told me, if he really did do this, if he really did fake his death, there were no actual crimes committed in his doing so.
Yeah.
But again, riffing on that phrase, "the perfect crime," you know, I think if Jim did this, which I believe, of course, I'm on the record, long on the record, believing he did that. Um, I think that he knew, he wasn't going to be able to perfectly cover his tracks. And I would go further and say that he didn't want to. I think he consciously, systematically had fun with leaving breadcrumbs on a breadcrumb
Yeah.
trail, if you will. Knowing that some someone foolish enough, like yours truly, would come along at some point and try to follow the breadcrumb trail all the way down the rabbit hole, and that's obviously what I've done. So I made it my life's work, and I'm grateful to have done that, very much so.
And also the lack of an autopsy as well. I mean, that's another question that's begging me to be asked as well. I mean, like you
Oh
say,
yeah.
it's such an interesting documentary. And like I said, I don't want to spoil too much for people who want to see the documentary because it's a great watch, and I implore everybody to watch the documentary if you are a Jim Morrison
Oh,
fan.
thank you.
And
Yeah, I mean, without giving away too much, we know the bullet points. Most people know these public, touchstones. There was no autopsy.
yeah,
The coffin apparently was sealed. No one saw the body. The doctor, which I discovered, Dr. Max Vasile or Vasile,
yeah,
however you pronounce it, there's no record of this guy ever having practiced medicine in France or anywhere else. He only appears as it relates to Jim Morrison's alleged death on the death certificate. So, the plot thickens.
and I mean, you've also interviewed quite a few people or featured quite a few people in this documentary, including his brother Andy Morrison, cousins Ellen Edwards, David Becker, amongst many other people. I mean, but Arthur, I mean, was there somebody that you actually wanted to get on this documentary, but unfortunately couldn't due to time constraints? Or
Oh yes, so many. I reached out to, like I said, I reached out to over 1,000 people. That's no exaggeration. I mean, that's over a dozen years. Whether it was phone, email, letter, you name it, carrier pigeon. Uh, um, but yeah, there were a number of them that I was either in touch with, that for whatever reason did not want to do an interview, or just that I could never reach. Michael McClure was a dear friend of Jim's and a big inspiration. He was a beat era poet who hung out with Kerouac and Ginsberg and Burroughs, Ferlinghetti. He was a big influence on Jim, and for whatever reason, we just couldn't connect. And then he later passed away. Same situation with Alain Ronay, one of Jim's longest and dearest friends, going back to his days at UCLA. Um, Ronay and I had an amazing experience. One day we spent 9.5 hours together one day, but he told me he appreciated what I was doing. But at the same time, he said, "I hope you don't take it personally," because he said he had been burned in the media one too many times, and he was no longer doing formal interviews. So he gave me a lot of information, which I get into granular detail about in my companion book. I have a forthcoming memoir slated for release later in 2026. It's called 127 Fascination, Jim Morrison Decoded. And in the book, I get into all kinds of detail that I could not, bring across in the docu series or docu mystery, as I call it. So, yeah, those are just two examples of people I wish I could have interviewed.
interesting. I mean, I definitely got to read this book, I'll tell you that. And I'm looking forward to it coming out. I mean, so it was a three-part documentary. I mean, will there be a possibility of a second series? And also, will it take another 12 years to make?
Yeah, I figure if I do another one, I joke with my girlfriend, and my friends, like if I did another one, maybe this one will take me twice as long, like 24 years, if I do it. So obviously I can't do that. I never want to say no. There may be another approach at some point, or as I mentioned earlier, a possible, director's cut that would feature all the unreleased footage and interviews. Um, I don't know. The bottom line is the book is my priority right now. Finishing the book and getting that published, um, and the book is a chance for me to really expand upon what I set out to do with the docu series, and that is to bring across Jim's humanity. Who he really was as a person. You know,
Yeah,
we all have heard of Jim Morrison, the rock star, and
of course.
the image of him in the leather pants and the whole thing, and that was brilliant. That was a part of him, but that wasn't all that was to him. He was
Yeah,
obviously a real person. He wasn't a rock god. He was a real human being who put his leather pants on one leg at a time. And the book is a chance for me to really delve into that. As I often say, Jim's ostensible fake death overshadows his life,
yeah,
especially his formative years as a child, and those years that shaped him, much in the same way that, sort of the blinding spotlight of his rock stardom obscures, the sensibilities of his poetry. So I really delve into that in the book again in ways that I could not do in the doc.
and I mean, I've actually listened to some of his songs as well, The Doors. I mean, great songs, by the way. Relight My Fire. I mean, that's one of my all-time favorites. And I mean, he was. It would have been interesting what he would have done if he was still here today.
Oh yeah, it's fun to speculate, you know, uh, or if he is here today, is
Who
he?
knows? Who knows? That's the question, isn't
Uh,
it?
stranger things have happened, certainly. But obviously, yeah, that's what I get into in the documentary. And the topic of Jim's alleged death has been, a fascinating one for so many, for over 50 years, over half a century. And again, stranger things have happened. But I also really made an effort, a concerted effort in the doc to really delve into his formative years, his childhood. And, everyone said Jim had demons in him, as we all
Sure.
do to whatever degree. And I believe those demons, unfortunately, were in the form of his parents and his upbringing. And I think that certain events really shaped him. And again, irony always present. Irony makes the world go round, maybe more than love. Um, Maybe we wouldn't know about Jim Morrison today the way we do if he hadn't had that trauma in his childhood. And that's a
Yeah.
haunting and harrowing notion.
And also, it was the alcoholism as well, because he actually was drinking a lot of alcohol before he appeared on stage. And I mean, that was also a factor of his demons as well.
Yes. Oh, of course. Now, it's interesting. I was able to meet and communicate with his personal assistant in Paris, a woman named Robin Wordle. And she was absolutely incredible and fascinating with the nuanced details that she shared with me. Stuff she had never been interviewed except one other time back in the 70s when she was interviewed for No One Here Gets Out Alive.
Yeah.
And even then, they misspelled both her first and last name. I don't know if that was by design or not, but that was partly why it took me 20 years to find her. And she told me one of many fascinating revelations in Before the End, Searching for Jim Morrison, the docuseries. She said that Jim, and this is a verbatim quote, she said, Jim was no alcoholic when I knew him in Paris. And Pam, his girlfriend, was no junkie. So that directly contradicts the official story, the controlled narrative. And
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun deconstructing that, reverse engineering those those myths.
And I mean, it's like I say, I mean, I've asked this before. I mean, do you feel that you've um, succeeded in your life's work now, do you feel that you've closed a chapter in your life, or do you think that chapter is still open for exploring further on down the line?
With regards to Jim.
Yes, with regards to Jim, sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, I don't think that book is ever going to close if we're using that metaphor, or that rabbit hole. It's always going to be. There's just so many layers. There was so much depth to him. He wasn't your
Sure.
typical rock star
Yeah.
by any stretch of the imagination. He was the word genius is used far too often, in my opinion. But I think he really was a true genius, and I also think he was neurodivergent at a time when we didn't even have that term.
Yeah.
That term didn't come around until decades later. But I think that goes a long ways towards explaining his sensitivity, his sensibilities, his approach to life. So yeah, I think he's an endless well that can be explored through time.
Yeah, I mean, and thank you for sharing that with me, Jeff. And again, it's a brilliant watch. I recommend everybody watching it. How can people get to see the documentary? I mean, it's on Amazon Prime where people can go and buy it, but is there any other media platforms that people can go and see the documentary?
Oh yes, and thank you for asking. Yes, I just recently. And so the doc was originally released in January of 2025. Again, it's a three-part docu-mystery, as I call it, before the end, searching for Jim Morrison. And it's available, as you said, on Amazon Prime Video. It's also on Apple TV. And in certain regions, it's on Google Play and YouTube TV. And it's also available on Vimeo, vimeo.com, in translations of French, German, Italian, and Spanish. And then just a couple weeks ago, there was a new expansion through Apple TV. It's now going to be in an additional 60 countries, 60. And that is everywhere from, I mean, I could list them off, but we're talking everywhere from Armenia to Zimbabwe and all points in between, Belgium, Ireland, Portugal, Sweden, on and on and on. So I'm really grateful that it's starting to get out there, further out there into the world.
Jeff, I want to say congratulations on the documentary and the new. We can't wait for the new upcoming book. But what's next for you? Have you got any projects that you're currently working on right now, or is it all secretive at the moment?
At the moment, I think I'm just going to dive into some classic Sheffield synth rock with the Human League. You know, uh,
Why not? You have a great band, great one
am I
band.
remembering correctly? I think the Human League were from Sheffield. Is
They
that right?
definitely are. They definitely are.
I,
Human. I mean, I would love to meet Human League. That has been one of my lifetime goals to get an interview with Human League. So I'm still trying to
was
get to.
was Cabaret Voltaire from Sheffield as well, or am I misremembering?
Say that again, sorry.
What was the band Cabaret Voltaire? Were they also from Sheffield? I can't remember.
Oh,
I know Joy Division was from Manchester.
I'm not
I'm a
really
huge
sure
Joy
to be.
Division fan, by the way.
I'm not really sure to be honest. You'd have to look that one
Yeah,
up. So I'll
but
definitely look
I,
that
obviously I
one
was just having some fun there. As far as to answer your question, yeah, the book "Finishing 127 Fascination," Jim Morrison Decoded, my memoir. That's my priority at the moment, and also, of course, promoting Before the End, searching for Jim Morrison. So those are my two
up.
main priorities. And then there is a third project, a third Morrison project in development that I can't really go into details about right now, but as soon as I can, I look forward to getting that out there in the world as well. So we'll see how
And
that goes.
I can't wait for another interview with you, Jeff, to talk about your upcoming project. And I mean, have you got an upcoming release date for the book? If you can tell us, or is it still a work
Right.
in progress at the moment?
Yeah, I'm still working that out, but as things stand right now, it has a loose, roughly slated for late 2026, later in the year. So hopefully later in 2026 or early 27 should see the release. So
So watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very
yeah.
much for your time. My final question for you is: what would you like to say to our listeners who is currently listening right now and our Jim Morrison fans?
I would say, well, that's a great question. Honestly, don't to each their own. But if you're asking for my advice, my opinion, my perspective, I would say, as I say in the documentary, don't take anything or anyone at face value. There's always more, than meets the eye. To dig a little deeper, do your own research, and just question authority. Question authority of those who have the official story about Jim Morrison or anything. Just question that authority, question your own authority, and just do your own research, become your own detective.
Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. It was really good to meet you.